Really, really good, but I wouldn't pick it. Still really good, but that's how I feel about this thing right up behind me right here. This is the Mercedes, I want to get the name right, AMG EQE SUV. AMG Performance EQE model electric SUV sports utility vehicle. When you're thinking competitors to this, you're thinking, okay, it's got to be a high-end, performance-oriented electric SUV, and that kind of puts you at like Model X Plaid around 100 grand like this is. That puts you at BMW iX, like the M60, maybe Mach-E GT, but even though this is really good, I would still take all of those over this, despite all the good things it has going for it. And I'll explain why by the end, but first, let me give you a bit of a tour of the AMG EQE SUV. So first of all, I've never been shy about when I think a vehicle is ugly. This one is kind of flirting on that line for me. It's not pretty, but I don't love the way it looks, and I think it has something to do with the front end. You obviously have this enormous Mercedes logo right up here, and then that AMG badge is all over this thing as well. There's another little AMG badge, hometown reppin'. And the bronze color, another thing that I wouldn't necessarily pick, but I don't know. I understand why it has to look like this. It's pretty aerodynamic. It's pretty smooth. It's pretty sleek. There's a lot of fake vents happening. Obviously, you don't need a real grille here. But this light bar up here up front, I think actually does look good. Obviously, there's a big vent down here for cooling. And there is real functional slotted air going down the side to go over the wheels, to maybe cool your brakes a little bit. Michelin Pilot Sport EV tires, so they're going to be efficient, but also pretty sporty on these big wheels. I don't know. I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. Then again, I'm comparing it to the others in the category that don't look that great either. But you know what? Let's just get the price and the basics out of the way right off the top. So this thing starts at $110,000, so it's pricey. And for that price, you get a 96 kilowatt hour battery, you get all-wheel drive, you get a 0 to 60 of about 3.2 seconds. It's about 680 horsepower and plenty of torque. But it's also about 230 miles of range on a good day. That's the EPA rated max range for this thing. And 170 kilowatt charging, which isn't the fastest. I mean, I'm used to seeing 250, 300, 350. And so this will still do like 10 to 80% in like 30, 40 minutes, but it's not the fastest charging either. That's its weak point. I think its strong point is the interior, and it is pretty explosive in a straight line. But just to walk you around the outside real quick, here are some other things to note. First of all, here's the charge port. Nothing crazy fancy or hidden, but it is motorized, and there's your fast charging, which is great. Love to see that. And in the back, this is where you get a little bit more of that EQE look with the light bar across. You get the AMG. This camera flips out when you've got your rear view camera open and a rear windshield wiper. And of course, you've got your key, which is how I'll get into the back here just by holding that. So you can see the trunk space. It's decent. Okay, this isn't best in class, but it isn't the worst thing I've ever seen either. But I do want you to keep in mind this vehicle does not have a front trunk. Okay, so this is basically all of your storage here. And yes, it's respectable. Those seats do move forward if you want them to. Nice little cargo cover here, but yeah, nothing too insane. Now I'm gonna close it and lock it with this button because I do want to show you these handles here, right? So it's just locked. Oh, that's another thing I forgot to mention. This car makes all kinds of noises. When you lock it, when you unlock it, when you drive it. This is one of the loudest EVs I've gotten to test. But anyway, okay, this little button right here. Another nice little noise that unlocks and opens those receding handles. And this is the back seat. Another little AMG logo. And this is me sitting behind my 6'3" driving position. Pretty good amount of room back here. So of course I always like to see good fundamentals, like I've got a lot of headroom, which is nice, and you've got this glass roof that makes it possible that also retracts and can open. Sweet. There's also this screen back here for HVAC controls, and in case you didn't know, 2 more USB Type-C back there. And the footrest is under this huge riser here. So your feet have this little bit of extra room just to kick forward. Anytime the seat in front of you is on risers, that's nice. And the seats are really comfortable. So if I could only spend time in the back seat of this versus any of its competitors, I'd probably pick the AMG. But that's not why you get one of these. You do get it because you're going to be driving it. So let's get to the front seat, the driver's seat. By the way, this is another one of those hilarious things where it says 4MATIC, this badge. This thing pops out, and that's your windshield wiper fluid, because the front doesn't even open at all on this vehicle. Anyway, let's get in the driver's seat. So I think I've had this thought about every recent Mercedes I've tested, which is, yeah, they're good at interiors, right? So this is the electric one, so you get a nice little, I think you get a sound when you boot it up. Am I gonna get a sound? So that's fun. That comes over the speakers. But you get like incredibly soft headrests, really comfortable seats. You get these big physical tactile vents that are super smooth to move around. LED lighting everywhere, all over the cabin. Obviously, tons of seat controls, big speakers. This big floating bar piece here, which is where you've got your window controls and mirror controls. It's just nice in here. Oh, and by the way, this steering wheel is sick. Really, really nice for this vehicle, and I'll get to what these dials do in a second. But that's the strength of this over its competitors, is an awesome driver's seat experience and an awesome interior. And I want to show you guys probably one of the most interesting pieces, which is this centerpiece here I'll focus on. So this slides open and stays there. This is my mic, so don't worry about that. But this big piece of internal storage here, 2 USB ports right there, wireless charger for your phone, and then a little spot to put your keys for just having them sit there, but also 2 cup holders. But you've probably seen this style of cup holder before. Can totally spin out of the way and give you more space, and then it totally lifts out and gives you even more storage, which is, it's cool. I don't know where to put this. Like, I guess it could go in the door or something. Maybe, hey Mercedes,
how can I help?
Open the glove box.
I'm sorry, can you say that again, please?
Open the glove box.
I'm
'Cause
sorry, but I can't help you with that right now.
So that's a bit of a theme. I'm just gonna put that right back where it goes. But then also back here, you've got even more storage with even more USB-C ports. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, yeah, well done on the interior, Mercedes. You haven't skipped a beat here. But then there's the other parts of driving this car, which is the software and then the drive itself. Let's start with the software. So this car's got this huge series of 3 displays, all in this one giant pane of glass. They call it the Hyperscreen, and the software is called MBUX. I've thought a lot about this recently. It's actually, how do I put this? It's very functional. It's just ugly, actually. It's even laid out well, and there's a lot of features. It's just ugly. I think it looks like Windows 95 or like Windows Vista or something like that. So you have all the normal stuff right here. These are the gauges. They look great. You can see right now I have 206 miles of range with 85% battery. But then here in the middle, just this huge blue skeuomorphic look down here. The look of the maps, all of the buttons just having this weird blue gradient. Now, there is haptic feedback on the screen, and the menus are pretty well laid out, and I have wireless Android Auto, and wireless CarPlay is great. You can scroll through, you can hear the clicks, and the haptic feedback is super good, and you have all the controls over the vehicles. It's great. It's just it doesn't look good, and maybe that's a subjective thing. Maybe you think this looks good, but I don't know. I would love to see like a refresh of a version of this software that looks a little more clean, a little more minimal, and more modern. But I don't know if they're going to do that. I think this is just the way Mercedes software looks, and this is just the way they want their MBUX to feel in their electric vehicles. But you've got these stalks with a whole bunch of controls for back here and over here. But I also like that you got the paddles, again, for regen. What's hilarious to me is this up paddle turns regen down, and this down pedal turns regen up. So if I put my foot on the brake and hit it, you can see, well, I'm not in drive, but down turns recuperation from normal to maximum, which is 1 pedal driving. So it's kind of backwardsly labeled, but you still get used to it pretty quick. And then I like these down here. So as you're driving, matter of fact, let me put it in drive so you can see. This little notch right here will change your suspension. This is an air suspension that can adjust from comfort to Sport Plus. And when you do that, you'll also see over here, you're changing your suspension from Comfort to Sport Plus. Comfort is actually pretty close to feeling like any other normal soft Mercedes SUV. It's not quite the totally floating Maybach experience, but it's pretty good. Sport and then Sport Plus gets admirably stiff, which is cool. And then this second one down here is just your sound. So sound goes from comfort to sport to powerful. So balanced, sport, powerful. And you can kind of hear that in the background, dial up. And that's literally just the sound that the car makes as you're driving around and accelerating. Like I said, a lot of sound effects from this car. And then on the right-hand side, you can just dial all of that up or down in one. So Sport Plus for suspension and acceleration. You can do Sport for everything, and then you can do Comfort for everything. And it all changes in one if you use this big dial on the right here. So I think that's pretty sweet. I find it easy to just pop over and hit the dial. This is something a lot of cars do now, where you just have a single dial for your drive modes. And, well, that is satisfying because you feel the difference. Now, I will warn you, if you're expecting this to be like some sort of extremely rigid, hyper stiff performance sedan, it's not quite that. It is still nearly 6,000 pounds. It is explosive in a straight line. Don't get me wrong, super fast. You can feel the nearly 700 horsepower like kick you forward. You can almost do a kind of a launch control in it too. So lots of good AMG stuff there, but once you get to turning and steering, it's not that much better than a Model X Plaid. I might get flamed for saying that, but it's true. It's just not that much better. So despite its rear wheel steering, despite the incredibly impressive Michelin tires, I don't know that I would get this just to be the sportiest possible drive. Listen to that air suspension. But I would get it just because it's the best interior and the most comfortable one. But if I'm still comparing in the back of my head this $100,000 fully electric performance SUV versus the iX version of that, or the Model X Plaid, or the Mach-E GT, or whatever else it is, I think I'm still going, in my mind, with the one with the most range, the best network, and the most storage, which is the Model X Plaid. And I think I maybe take this or the iX next. The iX is not as nice of an interior, but it's got everything else going for it. So more range. It's up to you. Let me know what you think of the AMG and the color and the looks. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.